Copy. Time to go racing in the Supercar Challenge. 5 different circuits across 7 different rounds in the 26th season of this championship. We arrive at the 3rd meeting of the season at Zolder. This 4-kilometer circuit opened in 1963 before we head to the likes of Assen and Hockenheim, back to Zandvoort and Assen later on in the season. But we are here at Zolder, the track designed by John Hugenholtz, a former Belgian Grand Prix host, a former host of the Tour de France as well, back in 1981. We are in the Limburg region of Belgium, just outside of the largest city in the Flemish region of this country, near Hasselt. And 16 turns for the drivers to navigate. 4.01 kilometers.
Terug in de pitstraat van een bloedheet zomers warm circuit Zolder, waar we zijn voor het 3e raceweekend van het seizoen in de Supercar Challenge en de Mazda MX-5 Cup Benelux. We maken ons op voor de eerste race van de Supercar Challenge dit weekend. Vanwege de omstandigheden het format een beetje gewijzigd voor vandaag. In plaats van een race van 2 uur is het gesplitst in 2 wedstrijden van 50 minuten elk, vanwege de zomerswarme omstandigheden. En de auto's die maken zich op in de pitstraat om zo meteen de pitstraat uit te rijden voor een formatieronde. En dan gaan we meteen over tot de start van de race. Dus geen langdurige startprocedure waarin alles te warm wordt en het materiaal en de coureurs te veel te lijden hebben. Veiligheid natuurlijk op de allereerste plaats. Nog 1 excuus heb ik te maken. Ik heb dus straks in de intro van de qualifying gezegd dat we hier ons in Vlaams-Brabant bevinden. Dat is natuurlijk niet het geval. Het is Vlaams-Limburg en dat weet ik zelf ook heel goed. Maar ja, het zal de warmte van morgen wel geweest zijn. Hoe dan ook, we gaan ons opmaken voor een eerste wedstrijd in de warmte hier. 25 minuten in totaal. En het wordt een enorme slacht, zoals de mensen zeiden. Niet alleen voor de coureurs zelf in de auto's, maar vooral ook voor het materiaal, de banden en het hele materiaal, de remmen, de ophanging, dat op zolder altijd al veel te lijden heeft. En bij deze temperaturen nog een klein beetje extra. Volop spektakel gegarandeerd dus. En ik geef graag over naar Dennis Wieringa in de commentaarpositie, die alle verdere instructies zal geven, alle verdere informatie rondom deze wedstrijd en natuurlijk ook de startopstelling doorneemt.
So a slightly revised format for this weekend's racing. We were due to have a 60-minute race today, the main event for this 3rd meeting of the season of the Supercar Challenge. But owing to the very intense heat, 37 degrees air temperature out there today, goodness knows what it's like inside these cars. The race has been split into 2 25-minute races, so 2 half-point races, basically what we were going to be doing tomorrow with the sprint format. Anyway, we haven't had sprint races since the first meeting of the season in Zandvoort, because we had 2 60-minute races last time out at Spa. We're now going to get 4 in one weekend. So the drivers will have a chance to take a break in between those races and get all the electrolytes and the fluids they need. But crucially, it will be quite fast, hard-hitting action out there on the track. No formation lap or no grid procedure. This is the formation lap. The car's immediately out of pit lane in order to minimize the amount of time that the drivers are going to be spending inside the cars. And Harry Barton in that white BMW from Koopman Racing will be on pole position for both of the races today. The qualifying session earlier setting the grid for both races today. The fastest laps for this grid, the second fastest laps for the second race coming up a little bit later on today. 4 different class of cars, separated by power to weight. So you've got your GT3 cars in the top GT category, Super Sport Plus cars with 280 brake horsepower per ton, Super Sport cars with 250 brake horsepower per ton, and the Sport Class cars at 200 brake horsepower per ton. So everything from GT3s down to Clios and Alpines. Harry Barton starting on pole position. It's a Koopman Racing 1-2 with Hein Koopman in his BMW Z4 making an outing here this weekend, and Wouter Manderfield in the Porsche Cup car on the second row of the grid alongside the Sol Radical, Mitchell van Dijk. Barry van Elk taking the Supersport Plus pole position in his Blueberry Racing BMW alongside Valentin Greven, and then Roger Deleu and Dennis de Borst in the Hyundai. And then Supersport pole position also going to a GT4 BMW, Robert van den Berg ahead of Chris Voort, the pole sitter in the sports category, the championship leader there. Fabian Schoenhoven, Rob Neiman, Leonard Bratislav, Henry Greven, Christian Dijkhoff, and Marlon Birdsall will be going from the back of the grid. We just saw a glimpse there of his red Koopman Racing BMW M6. He did not get out in qualifying owing to a gearbox issue, and so we'll be starting both of the races today from the back of the grid, and that is the championship leader. Your 3-time winner so far this season. 2 wins at Zandvoort, a win at Spa as well after a very, very late puncture for Harry Barton. We would argue he should have won both races at Spa, but it's a new race weekend here at Zolder. 2 Koopman Racing BMWs, the M6 and the Z4, will lead us down the start-finish straight to get the first of 4 25-minute races underway. Immediately popping out is the GT4 BMW into the middle of the pack, and it is the Porsche Cup car that dives down the inside of Hein Koopman, and the GT4 car going with him as well into 3rd position. But it's Harry Barton who leads into Erster Links for the first time of asking from pole position, closely followed by Wouter Manderveld. Clean start as the drivers make their way through the Sterren Varkbocht and then into Canal Bocht for the first time. A short straight before going into Lucien Bianchi Bocht, and then a blast down towards the Kleiner chicane. So a clean start, Harry Barton getting away very nicely from pole position and already establishing a gap to the Porsche Cup car. A difficult start for Hein Koopman. He's down to 4th position, just ahead of Mitchell van Dijk in the Sol Radical. Very experienced prototype racer is Mitchell van Dijk. Sits there in 5th position at the moment, into the Villeneuve chicane now for the first time. Everybody clobbering the curbs. This has been a real action spot for track limits at the apex of turn 9. Having listened to the symphony as they make their way out of Talarmenbocht. You've got the inline 6 at the head of the field, followed by the flat 6 in the Porsche, another inline 6 in the GT4 car, the naturally aspirated V8 in the front of the Z4, then the 4-cylinder engine in the Radical, and of course the 2-litre 4-cylinder engine in the TCR cars as well. Absolutely cracking stuff to listen to. Out of Boulderberg Halsbell Bocht, and now out of the Jackie X Bocht to complete the first lap of racing. 3.3 seconds the advantage for Harry Barton over Wouter Manderveld. And of course it's not just the racing cars that are taken to the track on this VMAX Zolder Super Prix weekend. It is also Supercar Madness, with over 300 cars expected to take to the racetrack for various hot laps and drag races that are also on display in the paddock here this weekend, as we've seen the change for third position with Hankook getting around Valentin Greven, your lead Supersport car in that 226 car, the 19-year-old from Stadskanal, who was sharing the car last time out at Spa with the multiple GT4 champion Ricardo van der Ende, but back running solo again this weekend. So now he runs in fourth position, still in the class lead ahead of the Radical. Mitchell van Dijk, 17 years old. Could not imagine two more different machines. I mean, that BMW has got to be nearly, 2.5 times the weight of the Radical, but with quite a bit more power coming from the inline six. So that is your championship leader, Marlon Birdsall, making his way through the pack. Already up to 6th position now is Marlon Birdsall. Remember, coming up from the back of the grid after not setting a time in qualifying owing to a gearbox issue on that M6. The predecessor to the current GT3 car from BMW, the M4, as Mitchell van Dijk tries to get underneath the GT4 BMW coming through Canal Box and gets an excellent drive there out of the Lucien Bianchi box, and Birdsall is going to try and take both of them side by side, 3 abreast at one point there on the run towards the Kleiner chicane, and Birdsall does manage to outdrag both of those cars. And amazingly, the grunt in that BMW keeping it ahead of the Radical. Remember, it's a much lighter car and actually utilizes a bit of downforce as a miniature prototype, but the grunt in the BMW powering it back through on that relatively short run out of turn 4. Lucien Bianchi box towards the first of 3 chicanes on this lap. Check in a little bit further back as we can see the Hyundai Dennis de Boers running 4th in his category. Supersport being led by Robert Vandenberg in the 334 BMW M3 E90 that started on pole position in its category, and Chris Vogt continues to lead the way in the sport category in his Trax Racing team run Alpine A110 Cup car. 3-time champion. Oh, dramas for the Radical though, going very slow on the start-finish straight. Mitchell van Dijk, that was running in at 5th position, is now stopped at the side of the road, and that is not going to be a very easy spot to extract it. Has managed to get it going again under his own steam, so hopefully he can just limp round the lap and make its way back to the pits without having to cause a full course yellow or a safety car intervention. Here we can see those Sport Cup leaders. Chris Vogt ahead of Fabian Schoenhoven in the 302. The 302 being the sports class car. A switch from the TCR Cupra to the Polo Cup for Neiman Autosport. Same engine as the Cupra, but a new platform coming out of South Africa. See, yeah, that's interesting because I think that has got a different number. The 507. Yeah, so that is a different number to what is on the timing screen and on the entry list. That's going to be fun to try and keep on top of. As unfortunately, Mitchell van Dijk has come to a stop somewhere on the track. Just keeping an eye on the driver tracker to see if it is indicating where that car has stopped. It looked to be at one of these chicanes. Unfortunately, couldn't limp his way back to the pits, but it does seem like the marshals have put that car in a safe spot. And a good opportunity to thank the marshals for their work, particularly in this searing heat, as Marlon Birdsall rounds up his team boss now for 3rd position overall. Makes his way past Hankook. The successor passing the predecessor there as the M6 makes its way past the Z4. How wonderful to listen to that naturally aspirated V8 again. You can imagine that Birdsall will make quite short work of Mandeveld, and then we'll see if he can do anything about the near 9-second gap it is now to Harry Barton, your race leader from pole position. But it's nice just to get a listen to that V8 engine. Well, it was a nice bit of commotion when that car rocked up in the Gedlick Winter Series earlier in the year in Portimao, just to get to listen to it again. And I feel like I need to stop talking out of respect almost to that mighty machine, as Birdsall now makes his move into Links and takes 2nd position away from Wouter Mandeveld, passing the Porsche Cup car. And so 11.2 seconds the gap to Harry Barton. We'll see if Birdsall can do anything with that. He does have the fastest lap of the race, marginally quicker than Harry Barton by about 0.3 of a second. But he's going to need quite a bit more than that if he wants to close in. Of course, he's been rounding up traffic coming up from the back of the grid owing to that gearbox issue in qualifying. Beautiful mix of engines there. Inline 6, the flat 6, the naturally aspirated V8. So even just that little bit there, you can see why people love this car so much, as Hankook tries to make his way back onto the overall podium now. Still Valentin Greven leading the way in the Supersport Plus category. Through the Jackie X box. Jackie X, the 8-time Grand Prix winner, the 6-time Le Mans winner, pulling out of the slipstream. There's Koopman there looking towards the inside of Links, maybe just trying to get some cooler and cleaner air onto the front of his car. Cooler air being a very operative word in this sense, because like I said, it is about 37 degrees air temperature out there and everybody's feeling it. Europe will be crying a big sense of relief when this heat wave finally ends, and temperatures are due to fall a bit tomorrow. So out of Lucien Bianchi corner, another Le Mans winner, a 3-time Le Mans winner that has a corner named after him at this circuit with Ford and Ferrari. Just on either side of the movie there. And now the traffic coming into play here with about 14 minutes left on the clock as they round up the Clio Cup car. So Christian Dykhoff, they just made their way past the Spirit Racing Clio. And then they've got the TCR car in front of them. The Pratasav Racing Cupra, which is Leonid Pratasov. And Pratasov keeping well to drivers left as the BMW ducks into the slipstream. The interesting thing here, you look at this and think, oh, it's a GT3 car. It should easily blitz past the Porsche Cup car. But this car is 16 years old now, and the Porsche in front of it is contemporary. It's not quite the 992.2 that launched this year, but still a much, much younger car. And we've seen that even LMP2 cars these days are doing lap times that LMP1 cars used to do 15 years ago. And so even this Porsche Cup car is a match for the older GT3 car that now you would see in the historic revival series, the GT3 Legends that are racing at Spa this weekend, rather than fighting it out with much more modern machinery. I remember the launch of this Porsche Cup car. I'm staggered by the lap times. It was only about a second off of the GT3 car, so that is a very rapid car relative to the cars it's racing here. Van der Velde getting a little bit sideways, coming through the Villeneuve chicane. Oh, and now that is dramas for the race leader, Harry Barton, pulling off the road at the Villeneuve chicane. Harry Barton, who was dominating this race. Now, we know his teammate had gearbox issues in qualifying. Is this a similar problem here that has caused the race leader to pull off at the side of the road? And that now means that Marlon Birdsall, the championship leader from last on the grid, is going to be leading the way. Extraordinary drama in the first race of the day here. We know that the temperatures have been absolutely soaring. Has that contributed to the potential dramas there for Harry Barton? We can only speculate at this time. Two BMWs duking it out in the final chicane. And that was Valentin Greven putting a lap on the Roger Deleu car. Or just getting around the Deleu car. And they've got Barry Van Elk, car that started on pole position in the Supersport Plus category. Just in there as well in the M4. In that multicolored car. And yeah, excuse me, the 527 is the car they're getting around. So Henry Greven is the car they were putting a lap on there. The M2 BMW, which has its own platform now, of course. 10 minutes to go here in the first race of the day. First of two. A reminder, we will have Mazda MX-5 Benelux action to come as well over the course of the day. Qualifying and first race. Still those yellow flags are waving for the stricken M6 of Harry Barton. Is second in the championship, out of the race with a mechanical drama. Slightly further back, you had the battle for third position in Supersport Plus. So that is Dennis de Boerst in the bright yellow Hyundai Elantra TCR car. A new car, a new class for the de Boerst family this year, the 201, chasing the 334 car of Robert Vandenberg. So that's actually an interclass battle now, with Vandenberg leading in his M3 E90. Robert and Benjamin Vandenberg joining us for the first time this season. And then just in front of them on the road is the M2 that they'll make short work of, I'm sure. Oh, contact actually, and into the wall goes the M2. So that was Vandenberg trying to put a lap on the M2 and squeezing the BMW over to the right-hand side. Now, it looks like Vandenberg has been able to get away with that one, but certainly the M2 has not, with suspension damage from the barrier hit. So that's two cars now at the side of the road with 8.5 minutes left to run. And we are going full course yellow. So with both of those cars in strife, we have to deploy the full course yellow in order to retrieve them. So a brief interlude. Mitchell van Dijk under investigation for something. Cannot quite see why that car that is out of the race will be under investigation. We can see the moment again here. So the M3 squeezing over to the right-hand side. And bouncing off the barriers goes Henry Greven, and out of the race. Potential dramas as well for our Supersport leader, Robert van den Berg. Because not only has he had that incident, he also has a 5-second time penalty for a starting infringement. Now, it doesn't give any indication as to what that infringement might be. There's all sorts of various rules about having to go through grid hatches and whatnot when you're doing a rolling start. So potentially he has fallen afoul of that. The Vandenbergs joining us for the first time this season, so that could be a contributing factor as to maybe not being totally across and abreast of the regulations. So 6.5 minutes left to run. We're under full course yellow while we extract Harry Barton and Henry Greven from the side of the road. It's Marlon Birdsall who leads the way from the back of the grid in the 111 M6 from Koopman Racing. Wouter Mandeveld in the Porsche Cup car is in second. We won't pay attention to the gaps because under this full course yellow they will not be representative. He's got Hein Koopman just behind him in the Z4. Then your Supersport Plus leader is Valentin Greven in the 226 CP Motorsport M4 GT4 car. And your championship leader in the Supersport category after 2 wins so far this season. If it stays like this, we'll have won at all 3 meetings so far. Rogier Delou is just behind him in the 235 Koopman Racing M4. And then Barry Van Elk in another M4, this one from Blueberry Racing, the reigning champion in the Supersport Plus category. Supersport being led by Robert van den Berg, but has a 5-second time penalty for a starting infringement and potentially will be under investigation for the contact that put Henry Greven out of the race. And that has just popped up on my timing screen. That is officially under investigation now. In the sport category, Chris Wirtz continues to lead the way in the Alpine from Trax Racing. Fabian Schoenhoven in the 507, which is the Neiman Autosport Polo. Make a note of that on my entry list because it has been updated since we received that last night. And then third in the sport category is Rob Neiman in the 502 car, the Spirit Racing Clio. And then your remaining runner in the Supersport category now, Leonid Pratasov. So we only have 2 of those cars now after some of the regrading of cars. An opportunity once again to thank the marshals for their work as we see the extraction of Henry Greven's BMW. Working in this heat, I cannot imagine the work they're going through. So thank you very much for the support in helping us put on not only a fantastic Zolder Super Prix weekend, but also Supercar madness throughout the weekend. Several million euros worth of exotic machinery out in the paddock, and will be taken to the racetrack later on. A reminder here on VMAX Racing TV, live coverage of all 4 races of the Supercar Challenge and the MX-5 Cup Benelux as well, qualifying in all 3 races to come here this weekend. They were not with us at Spa, but they are with us here this weekend. We're putting on a lot of entertainment. So still under full course yellow conditions. 12 laps now completed by your race leader Marlon Birdsall, with just under 2.5 minutes left on the clock. I think if we go green, we'll get maybe a lap and a half of racing back under our belts, as Harry Barton's car has now been pulled away from the gravel trap and behind the wall. Now, green flags waving. So with the Barton car now behind the wall, we go back racing again, and the race leader on the run towards the Kleiner chicane builds up the speed once again. And that was an opportunity for Hein Koopman to get around the Porsche Cup car for second place. So Koopman a little bit quicker off the button, or a little bit smarter in the traffic, managing to jump Wouter Mandeveld. I need to check something here, actually, because it's showing Hein Koopman was ahead at the start-finish line. Now, unless I've got an awful memory, Koopman was in third position before the full course yellow, so I'm not sure what may or may not have happened there, but, well, as it stands, it's Koopman in second place, and just over a minute left on the clock, so the race leader will soon be starting his final lap of the race. Another 5-second time penalty, this time to car 226. That is your Supersport Plus race leader, Valentin Greven. That is for track limits infringements. And he is currently only 5.1 ahead of Rogier Delou. So that is a gap to try and keep an eye on over the course of this final lap. It could be Koopman Racing winning in two classes here if they manage to inherit the win. But meanwhile, Marlon Birdsall on his final lap, 3.4 ahead of team boss Hein Koopman. And I'm sure that after qualifying, where that Chinese flag-inspired liveried M6 was stuck in the garage with a gearbox issue, Birdsall was not anticipating coming away with a victory, and also pulling 12 points on his nearest championship rival. Change for the lead in the sport category as well. The Polo Cup. Fabian Schoenhoven has jumped Chris Vogt, potentially on that full course yellow restart. So the win up for grabs here, as defending down the inside is Schoenhoven. And now managing to pull a gap through the Talarmenbocht. And Chris Vogt, who had dominated this race from pole position in the sport category up until this point, may well be losing out in the dying stages here, and it could be a first victory for the Polo Cup in the Supercar Challenge. Meanwhile, from the back of the grid, Marlon Birdsall extends his championship lead with victory in race 1 of the Supercar Challenge at the Zolder Super Prix. Second across the line will be Hein Koopman. It's a Koopman Racing 1-2. The M6 leading the Z4 over the line, with Wouter Mandeveld completing your top 3. We wait for Valentin Greven to come over the line, and does just manage to hang on to the Supersport Plus category victory over Rogier Delou. The gap on corrected times, half a second in the end after picking up that 5-second time penalty for a track limits infringement. So it's a third victory for the championship leader in the Supersport Plus category, and a victory on all 3 races that we have visited so far this year. Barry Van Elk completes the podium for Blueberry Racing. And it is a stop-and-go penalty for the Supersport leader, Robert Vandenberg. It's too late for him to serve that, so that will be turned into a post-race penalty, I'd have thought. I'm not sure that's going to be enough for him to lose the win. It will certainly be enough for him to lose 7th overall. And the sport category being led only 0.6 of a second in the end of the Polo Cup of Fabian Schoenhoven from Neiman Autosport. Their first race in that car after switching from the TCR Cupra, and it is victorious ahead of Chris Voet, the championship leader in their Alpine, and joined on the podium by Rob Neiman. Here's an overall look at the results then. Marlon Birdsall from the back of the grid leads a Koopman Racing 1-2 ahead of Hankook with Wouter Mandeveld. Class victories going to Valentin Greven from CP Motorsports. Koopman Racing and Blueberry Racing joining them on the Supersport Plus podium. Robert Vandenberg provisionally 7th, but will have that converted stop-and-go penalty for causing a collision with Henry Greven. Victory going to Fabian Schoenhoven, the first Polo Cup appearance of the season, ahead of Chris Voet and Rob Neiman. But the big dramas, we lost Mitchell van Dijk, the Radical, Henry Greven, and crucially, Harry Barton, your pole sitter and erstwhile race leader from Koopman Racing. And that will have a significant impact in the championship. There'll be no concern to Marlon Birdsall, though, who pulls up to the P1 board. And for the second race weekend in a row, does benefit from his teammates' misfortunes, but it is a 4th victory of the season, a 2nd sprint victory of the season after winning the opener back at Zandvoort. First of 4 sprint races this weekend, after revising the format, does go to Marlon Birdsall, shaking the hands with the team boss Hein Koopman, who congratulates his young protege, just 19 years old, is Marlon Birdsall, the Dutch-born English-Swiss Chinese driver in his first full season in the M6 after making his debut in the GT4 M4 and the M2 Cup this weekend. You see how out of breath Birdsall is. That is a young, fit driver who, after 25 minutes of racing, is pretty out of breath. So it does go to show it's definitely the right decision, particularly for some of our more amateur drivers, to split this race in two today. I'm sure he'll get straight on the phone to Max Janssen, his driver coach, who's busy at the Spa 24 hours this weekend. And he's hoping to follow in the footsteps of Max and make his way into SRO competition, already eyeing up Asia.
1 second.
Marlon Birdsall,
mooie overwinning. Laatste op de grid, eerste aan de finish. Hoe lastig was het?
Nou ja, qua temperatuur was het erg lastig. Ja, superleuk. Een keer helemaal achteraan te rijden. Het begin heb ik nog nooit gedaan in de race. Was superleuk. Ja, het was echt heel hard pushen eigenlijk met de auto, maar ook lichamelijk. Dus we moeten van de curbs afblijven. Vanochtend had ik een probleem met de versnellingsbak. Er zit een hele nieuwe versnellingsbak onder. Echt super bedankt van het team van Koopman die dat gewoon zomaar heeft kunnen doen. En ik heb gewoon mijn race kunnen rijden. Heel erg jammer van Harry. Ik had eigenlijk heel graag willen vechten met hem. Want daar gaan we eigenlijk voor. Maar ik ben nog steeds super blij. Dus ja.
Toen je zag dat Harry's auto was stilgevallen met een technisch defect, hoe bang was je zelf toen dat jou zoiets zou overkomen? Ga je dan andere dingen horen in je auto en zo?
Nou ja, je gaat wel gewoon de rust uithalen. Want ik ga achter Harry aan wel full push. En daarna denk je, oké, het kan nog een keer misgaan. Dus rustig. Punten zijn belangrijker dan mooie moves of een fastest lap of zo op dit moment. Ja.
Heel goed, mooie overwinning. Geniet ervan. Vanmiddag nog een keer. Hoe ga je nu afkoelen?
Eigenlijk gewoon een koelvest aan, misschien in de trailer staan, even goed water drinken. Dat adviseer ik iedereen in dit soort temperaturen. Dus ja, zeker weten.
Heel goed, succes voor zometeen. Dankjewel.
Dankjewel.
Let's look at some highlights then of the first of 4 sprint races in the Supercar Challenge. Harry Barton led them from pole position. Hein Koopman not getting the best of launches from the front row of the grid in the Z4. He was passed by the Porsche in the early stages, as Birdsall made his way up the order from the back of the grid after that gearbox issue. Dramas for the Radical. Mitchell van Dijk pulling off to the side of the road, not once but twice. That was the terminal moment for the Zust Racing driver. Birdsall continued to make progress, passing his team boss into the Kleiner chicane and then setting his sights on the Porsche Cup car. They battled over third position with Koopman and Van der Velde, but dramas for the race leader, Harry Barton, pulling off to the side of the road and gifting the win to his teammate and championship rival. Battles all the way through the pack. Very nearly contact between the M3 and the TCR car as they battled for position. A stop-and-go penalty being issued to the M3 driver after making contact with Emery Greven's M2 BMW, trying to put a lap on the 527 car and taking it out of the race. We went under full course yellow while we extracted that and Barton's car. Koopman up to second place. Didn't quite see how that happened in the end, and then a late change in the sport category with the Alpine losing out to the Polo Cup car, which takes victory in race 1 in that category. So shortly we'll be going to the podium.
En dan gaan we dan door naar het podium.
So the podium ceremony to begin. First of 2 here today for the Supercar Challenge. As it will be a second race later on today. Another 25-minute race to come, which will be live from about 4:45 local time. We've got MX5 action to come as well in amongst all of that. Qualifying in just over an hour's time. And then their first race shortly after the second Supercar race. So still plenty to enjoy today in terms of action at the VMAX Zolder Super Prix. Wait for the drivers to presumably take on some fluids before stepping out into the sun. And it is Marlon Bertel who takes victory here in race 1, first of 4 races this weekend in the Supercar Challenge. So we can now enjoy the podium ceremony for the first race of the weekend.
Kijk eens even, rustig gaan Wouter, lekker lopen. Op een tweede plaats, een oud gediende. Hij repareert heel veel auto's en hij heeft de Z4 uitstekend de spoor.
Wouter van der Velde on his first appearance of the season in the Porsche Cup car. Lines up in third. Hankook in second place. Marlon Bertel on the top step of the podium. Marlon Bertel, his third victory of the season, his second sprint victory. And there is only one race so far this season he hasn't been inside the top 2. That's the one he didn't even start.
Dat was de ere van Marlon Zolder, het Nederlandse volkslied. En dan gaan we natuurlijk ook nog de bekers uitreiken.
So the trophy presentation will begin. The overall and GT division trophies. Koopman Racing 1-2. Not the 1-2 I'm sure Hein Koopman had in mind when he woke up this morning. And we can hear some of the classic touring car challenge cars roaring around the circuit. Alan Birdsall making sure he gets the photos for the Instagram later. Not a result he would have expected, lining up from the back of the grid. So still 3 more races to come over the course of the weekend. One more today. We'll be live for that at 4:40 local time. MX5 action to come in the meantime.